Yo, it's good. It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Today I want to talk about why Jonathan Kuminga is the next star waiting to happen for somebody. If you enjoyed the video, smash the like button for me, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Look, let me just start off by saying Jonathan Kuminga, I've been a fan of his since he got to the G League. He's been one of those players where when you watch his talent out there, when you watch the athleticism on display, you begin to see the type of talent that is rare, is extremely rare in the NBA. At about 6'7", he came into the NBA at around 225 pounds. Had that man strength, that man body, that grown physical ability to body up against just about anybody at his position or even above it. Last season, in only his second season, Steve Kerr was having him defend centers, right? And not just undersized centers. I'm talking about full-grown, full-size Rudy Gobert type centers, right? He has a great low center of gravity, great lateral footwork, and he has that tough competitive physicality that allows him to maximize his ability when it comes to strength and physicality. Now, all that's to say is that that's not necessarily why he becomes a star. He's a star because, or why I think he has the ability to become a star, and likely will, is because he applies all of that to his offensive game. Now, I know a lot of times if you listen to my channel, I really kind of critique this very offensive-centric evaluatory mechanism that a lot of the NBA operates in, where we look at your offensive skill side of the ball, and that's where we determine if you're a star or not. But your defensive side many times gets overlooked. Well, when we forget about how valuable that is, think about Dylan Brooks going to the Houston Rockets, right? And all of a sudden they've got a top defense, right? And they're playing at such a high level, right? When we think about the impact of somebody like a Steven Adams or a Jaren Jackson Jr., we think about, different guys who come in and reshape how a team's defense even looks. We tend to, forget just how important that is, especially when it comes to getting into the playoffs. But all that's to say is for Jonathan Kuminga, when he applies that physicality to his 6'7", now about 235 pound frame with about a 40-inch vertical and the type of first step that you see from only elite guards, you begin to see the type of problem that he becomes on the perimeter. He kind of reminds me of Carmelo Anthony, where he was about 6'8", 235, 240 pounds or more, but he had the quickness of a guard. And so because he also played physical, he was always a walking mismatch. And this is one of the primary reasons why I think Jonathan Kuminga has that type of star ceiling potential, because he's a walking mismatch. It doesn't matter if you put somebody his size on him, he's going to be too slow. Put somebody who's faster, he's going to be too small, right? And so he's always going to have a mismatch. The second reason that I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to become a star is because he has truly filled out his offensive repertoire. He is somebody at this point who can legitimately score at all three levels. He's knocking down his three ball off the catch and shoot and off the dribble with regularity. He always had kind of that pull-up mid-range ability. He's shown the ability to be a terrifying rim attacker who can dunk on just about anybody. But even when he's not dunking, he's showing a diverse finishing ability with both hands around the rim, up and unders, and different types of finesse moves that it takes to be able to avoid taking charges while coming to the rim at 100 miles an hour. Being able to score at all three levels is one of the primary aspects of becoming a dominant offensive force. Not just that, but he's not just a face-up shot creator. Meaning he's not like the Zach LaVine where he can get all the way to the rim or he can shoot the three and he has the mid-range, but it's pretty much all face-up game. It's getting somebody in front of him, taking them off the bounce. Jonathan Kuminga has the ability to also post you up. And this is where the Carmelo Anthony comparison comes into a little bit more, because to be able to post somebody up as well, and that means up and unders, that means drop steps, that means even turning over your right shoulder or left shoulder for fadeaways from about 10 to 12 feet out, and it's nothing but the bottom of the net. That's when you become a problem to another degree. Because being able to score out of the post allows you to distribute the ball throughout the team. It allows you to not have to dominate the ball as much, but it also allows you to start off closer to the rim. And starting off closer to the rim means that you're able to get to the rim that much faster. Not just that, but from the post position, you're actually able to you're able to pass out of the post to the opposite corner or the opposite wing that much easier, which makes it so much harder for a defense to try to come and double team you. The last level of his offensive game that I have to say gives him star potential is his ability to get to the free throw line. When you can get to the free throw line, it allows you to subsidize your scoring, where even if you don't have it going offensively, maybe your jump shot is not dropping, maybe you're not able to get all the way to the rim because there's, a dominant big man there, even though he could dunk on the majority of them. When you can draw fouls and get to the free throw line, you give yourself an opportunity to knock down free throws to get your jump shot going. You allow your offense to be able to put the defense in foul trouble, which makes offense that much easier for the rest of the team, right? And so you're still able to contribute at a high degree offensively while even not having your shot going, right? And when you can get to the free throw line early in games, this allows you to have more consistency in terms of your offensive output and performance. Now, another thing that I'm going to throw out there is he's also a developing playmaker. I think we saw it a lot last season going into his sophomore year, where that previous summer, the Golden State Warriors encouraged him to play with his international team for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, right? And playing for the Congo, he was able to be their primary playmaker. He was having to create all the shots. And I'm not saying all the shots, but I'm saying he was the man. He was that dude. And because of how international play works, they know how to help. They know how to dig down. They know how to send the double and recover it, rotate. Guys will be committed on that end. So you have to learn how to make good decisions, timely decisions, and execute it correctly. That means you can't just locate the player that's open when the double team comes. You actually have to deliver a almost pinpoint pass. And this is hard for a lot of guys. Think about Kawhi Leonard when he was developing. He was not a playmaker for the majority of the early portion of his career. With the San Antonio Spurs, I would say almost up until his last season there, he was a poor playmaker. Teams were like, look, we're just going to force him to have to pass out, and he's more likely to turn it over than he is to create an assist. Joel Embiid was also in that category for the majority of the early portion of his career. And so when you see that he's beginning to develop the playmaking, and even this season, he's seeing it that much easier. He's seeing the backdoor passes. He's kicking out to the opposite wing. He's swinging the ball. He's getting those hockey assists, right? Where he just gets the ball and he understands who's already open, and he just swings it to that corner or to that wing or to the top of the keys so that that man is able to catch the ball and make something happen, right? Catching the defense in rotation. And so when you begin to combine all these different aspects of his offensive game, he's set up to be a dominant offensive force. Now, we all know he has a great first step. We all know that he has a more than competent ball handling a set of skill. He kind of reminds me of Jaylen Brown, where his ball handling isn't spectacular, but it's highly effective. Because of his explosiveness and his first step and his physicality, it doesn't take much. He doesn't need to hit you with a crossover. He doesn't need to do a bunch of pullbacks. All he needs to do is get that first step on you and get you on his hip. And then he's bouncing you right off of him because he's too strong. And because of his explosiveness at the rim, once he bumps you off, it's almost like you're not even in the picture anymore. You're not even there. Because once he goes up for takeoff, you're not going to be able to stay with him. You're already off balance. Now, the last part of the intro for this video, I said he's going to be a potential star for somebody. Because I don't know if the Golden State Warriors are going to be able to retain him. Look, I'm not saying he's going to turn down a max extension from the Golden State Warriors. But that's more than likely what it's going to take for them to be able to retain him. Look, by the end of this season, especially the way Andrew Wiggins has started this year, Draymond Green getting suspensions, it's forcing Steve Kerr to play Jonathan Kuminga more and more and more. And you already kind of know my perspective of Steve Kerr. You know, he's done a great job coaching a team with a bunch of Hall of Fame players and all-time greats, right? Okay, greatest shooting backcourt of all time, one of greater defenders, leaders, and Draymond Green of all time, right? That thing was clicking before he got there. He brought in Alvin Gentry, Mike Woodson, and boom, they were able to go from playoff team to NBA champion, and he's been riding this thing out ever since. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have flaws. And a couple of those flaws have been more than apparent in his relationship with Jonathan Kuminga. One, he's not a developmental coach. He doesn't necessarily know and understand how to develop his younger players. This is why they had to bring in Kenny Atkinson, right? Came from the Brooklyn Nets. They had to bring him in order to begin to develop these young guys and to create a program so that they could begin to apply their talent into the Golden State Warriors system. Steve Kerr, in that regard, is extremely rigid when it comes to his system, right? That's why James Wiseman is no longer there. We can talk about the tax impact, but look, the Golden State Warriors are making $4 billion. You know what I mean? They're making $4 billion a year. They not worried about, hey, I'm paying, maybe $500 million in salaries, and then maybe I get hit with the tax for another $100 million, right? When you're making $4 billion, you're all right. You're doing really good, okay? That wasn't the reason. That's the reason that they told us. But the real reason was likely because they knew that James Wiseman was never going to get into the rotation. And he couldn't cost you that much and not be used. And no matter how much he was getting nudged by the then general manager, right? Steve Kerr was not able to bring himself to playing James Wiseman or creating space for him within the offensive sets and system to be able to bring him along. It didn't help that he had injuries and such like that, but his talent was undeniable. We still see his talent, but that's why they had to move him. Unfortunately, a lot of that has trickled down to Jonathan Kuminga. It hasn't mattered about his talent. Steve Kerr just hasn't been able to trust him. And because he's the type of player that needs a different system, this is not a good system for Jonathan Kuminga, even though I'm pretty sure he's learning a lot when it comes to filling out these peripheral aspects of the game of basketball that are highly effective and important when it comes to winning, especially at the highest levels, which the Golden State Warriors have proven, which is why they've allowed Steve Kerr to get away with not playing these young guys, because they get it. Hey, you're still winning championships. Look, you ain't got to be perfect. What do they say? Don't ask how, ask how many, right? And you're winning championships. Hey, we'll eat it. But it's still there. And how it's affected Jonathan Kuminga in not getting the playing time that he knows if he had been on Charlotte, if he had been in Chicago, teams that need his talent, if he had been in Washington, if he had been in Portland, if he had been on another team that needed an explosive scoring wing, he would have been getting 32 minutes, 35 minutes a game starting last year. He would have been a primary scoring option in the starting lineup because the general manager would have been like, that's what we need him to be for us. That's what we're bringing him in here for. That's what his talent suggests. But instead, he's still coming off the bench behind Draymond Green, who can't shoot. Right? Draymond Green, who can't, create his own shot. But because he passes well to Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, and he does a lot of other amazing things that benefit winning, yes, I get it. But it's still hard to know that the guy that you're dunking on in practice is starting ahead of you, getting 35 minutes a game, and you're getting 17 to 22, and sometimes even getting DNPs. Is not playing because of the coach's decision. You're not hurt. The coach just doesn't play you. Maybe just doesn't trust you. Doesn't see how to work with you and fit you in. Knowing that you're more than talented enough. And I'm not even talking about Moses Moody yet. I'm going to do another video on him because he has a load of talent that's being untapped in Golden State. And so when we think about, will he be a star for the Golden State Warriors? Well, let's just say he's got 2 more years on this contract, this year and next season. After this season, he'll be contract extension worthy, right? They can offer him an extension. More than likely, it depends upon how he finishes this year. But if he explodes, the Golden State Warriors are going to be forced with either we trade him now, next offseason, or we pay him now. Because the way the salary cap continues to go up, because people don't realize how much money the NBA is really making, right? This thing is going to keep going up year after year after year after year. Any type of gripe about how much money that your team is paying is nowhere near how much they're actually making, right? It's not 50-50, 50% to the playoffs players and 50% to the team governors, right, and ownership. It's not 50-50. The team governors are still making way more money than the playoffs, than the players. I keep saying playoffs, than the players. And so when we think about Jonathan Kuminga, you have to really start thinking about, hey, can they afford him and will they pay him? Will they pay him? Because you're still paying Stephen Curry. You're still paying Draymond Green. You're still paying Andrew Wiggins. You're still paying Klay Thompson, who is going to be a free agent. You're still going to have to pay Moses Moody after next season. You still have other guys on this roster who are going to demand a salary. How much are you going to pay? And if this team continues to struggle, and let's say it gets knocked out in the second round, do we see this team, this ownership, this team governor investing in that team in that way? If they're only making it to the second round? If they get knocked out in the first round? Right? I think they'll make the playoffs no matter what, but Stephen Curry is getting hurt. Klay Thompson's not playing in the level that he used to. Well, you're going to have to re-sign him. He's a part of your big three. He's a Hall of Famer. He's been here his whole career. Do you pay Jonathan Kuminga? And this is where I think another team is going to be able to swoop in who's under the salary cap. Somebody like a Detroit Pistons. Somebody maybe like Charlotte, who's going to have the money and say, hey, we can throw him a max contract and potentially get us a number 1 scoring option who could take us into the playoffs. But as always, I want to know what you all think. Do you think Jonathan Kuminga has all-star potential? Do you think he stays with the Golden State Warriors and becomes an all-star? Get at me in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.